All right, hey everyone. Topic of this video is going to be about why people need to learn to be okay and comfortable with being alone, and not rushing into a relationship with the wrong person just because they don't want to be alone, or they can't, stand being alone. They can't stand their thoughts or whatever. Whenever they're in a quiet room or whatever, that's basically what this video is going to be about. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so we live in the most connected era in human history. And yet we are all terrified of a quiet room. Why? Because silence forces a conversation that we simply aren't ready to have, the one with ourselves. We scroll, we swipe, we settle, not because we're weak, but because we've confused company with cure. Today we're going to talk about the scariest, most liberating skill you'll ever learn. How how to be okay with just you, just yourself, going through, everyday life and everything, whatever it may be. All right. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Rushing into a relationship to avoid loneliness is not romance, it's anesthetic. When you are desperate to fill a void, your standards drop. You start confusing attention for affection. You start mistaking anxiety for butterflies. We've all done it. We've all dated the person who was almost right, or the person who was right sometimes, but because because being with a maybe felt better than facing with a no. But here's what happens next. The loneliness doesn't go away. It just changes shape. Instead of being alone in an empty room, you are alone in a relationship. And that, I promise you, is much more painful, is a much more painful feeling of loneliness, because it comes with hope. And hope that it is constantly and hope that is constantly disappointed is exhausting. If you really want to find the one, you have to first be willing to lose the one. Basically, are you brave enough to walk away from a relationship that is fine but not great? Are you brave enough to, delete the apps for 6 months and just exist? Because the breakup that most people need isn't with their partner. It's with the idea that they are incomplete. You basically have to break up the belief that your singlehood is a countdown to doom. Single isn't a waiting room. It's a classroom, and the lesson is you are the only person who is guaranteed to stay in your life until the very end. And doesn't it make sense to get to know that person? If really to really sit there and think about it. All right, and getting into the dating yourself experiment. This is the dating yourself experiment for the next 90 days. Treat yourself like someone you are trying to impress. What would you wear on a date with yourself? What would you cook? What conversation would you have? Here's what I've learned. When you take yourself on dates, you stop waiting for someone else to show you a good time. You learn what you actually like, and not what you pretend to like to impress others. You find out, you hate action movies. You find out you love early mornings. You find out that you are actually hilarious when you aren't performing for validation. This is narcissism. This is reclamation. You are, reclaiming the parts of you that that you outsourced, to other people. All right, getting into the handling of obviously the weird looks if you're doing this. And regarding the hard part of this, other people won't understand this. Society, has a script for you. You know, the script. You know, we've all either heard of or seen or whatever. You know, you graduate from college and everything. You marry someone. You buy the house. When you deviate from the script, things things and people get uncomfortable. They'll ask, "Are you okay? Are you being too picky?" One phrase I always love to say is, "Time is running out. You better do something. You better find someone." Let me reframe that pressure for you. The people who judge you for being single are usually the people who were too afraid to be alone by themselves. They are projecting their own fear onto you. You don't inherit their panic. When someone asks, "Why are you still single?" you look at them in the eye and say, "Because I haven't met anyone who adds to my peace yet." That isn't arrogance. That is the highest form of self respect. Because the wrong person doesn't just waste your time, they steal your clarity. They distract you from your purpose. They turn your life into a background noise to their drama. And that's not something you want. All right, getting into the conclusion and the magnetic shift. And this is the magic you cannot fake. When you finally become okay and more so comfortable with, being alone with yourself, you become irresistible. Not because you play hard to get, but because you are hard to shake. You're not desperate, you're not needy. You are a whole ecosystem, and you're looking for someone to visit your forest and visit your forest and not to chop it down, if that makes sense. The What I'm saying is that the right person won't save you. They won't want to fix you. They'll see you thriving and say, "Wow, I want to water what is already growing." That is the relationship that's actually worth waiting for. And until that day arrives, you aren't lonely. You're just, practicing for the real thing. So, this video hit home and stuff. I want you to do one thing for me. Take yourself on a date. Take yourself on a date this week. No phone, no distractions. Just you, coffee, and silence. It doesn't have to be coffee. It can be anything. Take yourself to like a, a sit down fast food restaurant, or a nice sit down restaurant. Take yourself to a movie by yourself. That's something that I do. I usually I go to the movies just me by myself and everything and stuff, and see what comes up. Write it down. And if you're brave enough, share this with someone who needs to hear it. They might be waiting for permission to be alone. So saying, just give it to them. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.